In South Carolina's Lowcountry, a region of sprawling estates, old money, and deep-rooted political dynasties, there are families that simply run things. They have for generations. Everyone knows who they are. And in 5 counties of that corner of the state, for nearly 100 years, one family ran more things than almost anyone else. The Murdaughs. Alex Murdaugh's great-grandfather was elected the local solicitor, the regional prosecutor, in 1920. His grandfather followed. Then his father. The family also ran one of the most powerful personal injury law firms in the region. In South Carolina's Lowcountry, the Murdaugh name was not just respected. It was untouchable. On the night of June 7, 2021, Alex Murdaugh called 911. His voice was quivering. He said he had just come home and found his wife Maggie and his 22-year-old son Paul lying near the dog kennels of their family's hunting estate. Shot dead. Within days, investigators began to suspect that the man who made that call had also pulled the trigger. What unraveled over the next 5 years, the financial crimes, the drug addiction, the fake suicide attempt, the 6-week murder trial, and the bombshell Supreme Court ruling in May 2026, is one of the most extraordinary legal dynasty collapses in American history. This is the story of the Murdaugh murders. Richard Alexander Murdaugh, known as Alex, was born on May 27, 1968, into South Carolina's Lowcountry royalty. The family's law firm had represented clients across the region for generations. The Murdaugh name appeared on the doors of the firm that would become Peters, Murdaugh, Parker, Elsroth, and Dietrich. Their great-grandfather, grandfather, and father had each served as solicitor, the equivalent of the district attorney, across a 5-county region, in consecutive terms spanning from 1920 to 2006. That is 86 years of a single family controlling criminal prosecution in that part of South Carolina. Alex became a partner in the family firm. He was a personal injury attorney, the kind of lawyer who made a living securing large settlements for clients who had been hurt, cheated, or wronged. He and his wife Maggie were college sweethearts. They had 2 sons, Richard, known as Buster, and Paul. They had a sprawling hunting estate called Moselle, 48 acres of land in rural Colleton County with dog kennels, stables, and the weight of old Southern prestige. From the outside, it was a perfect life. From the inside, it was crumbling. The first public crack appeared in February 2019, when Paul Murdaugh, then 19 years old and drunk at 3 times the legal limit, crashed a boat he was driving with a group of friends. A young woman named Mallory Beach, 19 years old, was thrown into the water. Her body was found a week later. Paul was charged with boating under the influence causing death. The case dragged through the courts. And from the beginning, the Murdaugh family, deeply embedded in the legal system of that region, was suspected of using its influence to protect Paul from accountability. Behind the scenes, something else was unraveling. Alex Murdaugh had a secret he had kept from almost everyone around him, including Maggie, including his sons. For more than 20 years, he had been addicted to opioids. At his peak, he was spending an estimated $60,000 a week to feed the addiction, taking up to 60 pills a day. He was funding it by stealing. From clients. From his own law firm. From people who had trusted him with their most vulnerable moments. Text messages recovered during the investigation showed that Paul had found a bag of drugs belonging to his father just 1 month before the murders. He had confronted Alex about it. The secret was starting to come out. The Mallory Beach civil lawsuit was also threatening to expose Alex's finances in open court. A hearing was approaching. The numbers would be examined. The lies would be visible. 3 weeks before the civil hearing was scheduled, Maggie and Paul were dead. On the evening of June 7, 2021, Alex Murdaugh was at Moselle with Maggie and Paul. By his own account, the first account he gave to police, he had eaten dinner with the family, stayed in the house, fallen asleep on the couch, and later drove to visit his elderly mother who had dementia. He said he had not seen Maggie or Paul in the hours before their deaths. At 10:06 p.m., he called 911. His voice shook as he described finding them near the kennels. Police arrived at a devastating scene. Maggie Murdaugh, 52 years old, had been shot 4 to 5 times with a .300 blackout rifle. Paul had been shot twice with a shotgun, once in the chest, once at closer range. Blood and biological matter covered the ground and walls of the small kennel feed room. No murder weapons were ever found. But investigators began to look very carefully at Alex Murdaugh from the very first night. And then, nearly a year and a half after the murders, investigators managed to unlock Paul Murdaugh's cell phone. And what they found on it changed everything. A Snapchat video, recorded by Paul himself at 8:44 p.m. on the night of the murders. At the kennels. In the background of that video, 3 voices. Paul's, Maggie's, and a third voice, unmistakably familiar to everyone who knew the Murdaugh family. Alex. He had been at the kennels with his wife and son just 5 minutes before prosecutors believed they were shot. He had told police he was not there. He had lied. In the weeks and months after the murders, what had been cracks in the Murdaugh facade became a complete collapse. Alex entered a rehabilitation facility for opioid addiction. Then came the revelation of the financial crimes. A forensic accounting investigation revealed that Alex had been stealing from clients for decades. A housekeeper named Gloria Satterfield had died in a fall at Moselle in 2018. Alex had approached her sons afterward, encouraging them to file a wrongful death lawsuit against him, telling them it would secure them a financial payout from his insurance. They did. A settlement of more than $4 million was reached. Alex pocketed essentially all of it, and the sons received almost nothing. That was just one case. Investigators eventually uncovered dozens. Alex had stolen an estimated $8.4 million from clients at his firm over a span of roughly 20 years. He was forced to resign from the family firm. He was disbarred. And then came a story so bizarre that it seemed impossible. In September 2021, just 3 months after Maggie and Paul's murders, Alex called 911 from a rural roadside to say he had been shot in the head while changing a tire. He had not been shot in the head. He had paid a man named Curtis Smith to shoot him in the head. The plan was to fake his own death so that his surviving son Buster could collect on a $10 million life insurance policy. Curtis Smith pulled the trigger, but the shot grazed Alex and he survived. Alex later admitted to investigators that he had arranged the shooting himself. The murder trial of Alex Murdaugh began on January 25, 2023 in Walterboro, South Carolina. The courthouse was packed every single day for 6 weeks. The trial drew national and international attention. It was streamed live, dissected in real time on social media, and spawned a podcast, multiple documentaries, and eventually a Hulu miniseries starring Jason Clarke and Patricia Arquette. Prosecutors argued a clear motive. The civil hearing related to Mallory Beach's death was approaching and would publicly expose Alex's financial crimes. He killed Maggie and Paul, they said, to generate sympathy, to position himself as a grieving father so consumed by loss that no one would look too closely at the money. The defense argued the evidence was entirely circumstantial. No murder weapon. No blood found on Alex's clothing despite the close-range brutality of the killings. No eyewitnesses. And then Alex Murdaugh took the stand. He admitted everything, except the murders. He admitted lying to police about being at the kennels. He admitted the financial theft. He admitted the fake suicide. He admitted the addiction. He described taking up to 60 or more opioid pills a day. He wept on the stand. He said he had lied to protect himself from suspicion, not because he was guilty. But in cross-examination, Prosecutor Creighton Waters dismantled him. He reminded the jury of the kennel video, Alex at the scene, 5 minutes before Paul's phone went dark forever. He reminded them of the lies built upon decades of deception. Not a single person close to him hadn't been lied to by this man, Waters told the jury in closing argument. He was lying to you, just like he's lied to everyone close to him. On March 2, 2023, after less than 3 hours of deliberation, the jury found Alex Murdaugh guilty on all 4 counts, 2 murders, 2 weapons charges. He was sentenced to 2 consecutive life terms without the possibility of parole the following day. "It's so unfortunate," the judge told him at sentencing, "because you had such a lovely family of such friendly people, including you. And to go from that to this." For 2 years after the conviction, the Murdaugh case appeared to be settled. Then came the clerk. Becky Hill was the Culleton County Clerk of Court who oversaw the jury during the 6-week trial. After the conviction, she wrote and published a book about her experience working on the case. And in the course of investigating the book, a series of disturbing allegations emerged. Multiple jurors came forward with claims that Hill had made comments to them during the trial. Comments about Alex Murdaugh's credibility, about his testimony, about what the right verdict should be. One juror filed a sworn affidavit stating that she had questions about Murdaugh's guilt but voted guilty because she felt pressured by other jurors. Another juror said Hill had told him to watch Murdaugh's body language on the day he testified. Hill was charged in May 2025 with perjury and obstruction of justice for showing sealed photographic evidence to a media reporter and lying about it under oath. She also admitted to using her official position to promote her book. In December 2025, she pleaded guilty and was sentenced to 3 years of probation. Alex Murdaugh's attorneys argued this conduct had poisoned the jury and denied him a fair trial. On May 13, 2026, the South Carolina Supreme Court agreed. Unanimously. 5-0. The court called Hill's conduct shocking jury interference. It said she had placed her fingers on the scales of justice and had essentially used her position of authority over the jury to push them toward a guilty verdict. The murder convictions were overturned. A new trial was ordered. Alex Murdaugh remains in prison. He is still serving time for the federal financial crimes to which he pleaded guilty. He is not free. But the murder case against him must now be tried again. The South Carolina Attorney General vowed to retry the case as soon as possible. Maggie Murdaugh was 52 years old. She was described by everyone who knew her as warm, devoted, and deeply loved by her sons. She did not deserve what happened to her near those kennels on a summer night in South Carolina. Paul Murdaugh was 22. He was flawed. The boating accident had cost a young woman her life, and that weight followed him. But he was also someone's son. Someone's little brother. Someone with decades ahead of him. Whatever the courts ultimately decide about who killed them, and a new trial will attempt to answer that question, the fact of their deaths, and the grief of those left behind, does not change. The Murdaugh dynasty, nearly a century of power in South Carolina's Lowcountry, was built on the promise of justice. In the end, it became one of the most dramatic examples of what happens when the people entrusted with that promise believe the rules don't apply to them. The retrial is coming. This case is far from over. Quick Crime Vault will be watching. Subscribe. Every case in this vault deserves to be told completely. We'll see you in the next vault.